Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today we're going to be talking about Devil Wears Prada. It's an interesting recommendation from you, Evan. Um, what did you think?
Yeah, just something kind of off the cuff, and I'd heard vague details about this movie, and I didn't know too much what to expect. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'd avoided it because I'd heard, it seems like a chick flick. It just seems like a girl movie. If you look into the writer, she writes a lot of movies like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'd heard that this movie was not, just some throwaway like rom-com or anything like that, it had a lot of staying power. And I feel like there are some movies like this where I feel like this is a movie that maybe people look at with slight rose-tinted
Yeah,
glasses because of the performances.
that's
It's
how I
got
feel
really good
too.
performances. I don't know about the whole package though, like after this time, but I do think people the thing that shines the most is the performances and the characters.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think it's like an interesting film. It's not bad or anything. It's just I was expecting more for it to be like such a huge like cultural cornerstone, you know what I mean? Like everyone has talked about this movie, everyone knows about it, but it didn't feel like it was like doing anything to like I felt
Y-
like I've seen like 20 movies like this in my life.
Well, it's something just like out of the gate. If you've seen this movie, I would hope that most people could agree that it is a fairly cliched movie.
Yeah.
It's the classic, jaw like underling, like trying to do like the workers' bidding, and there's drama with the friends when like they can't make it in time, and they like straight up like miss the character's birthday. Which it's handled better than the cliched movies that you're thinking of, but it is still a very by the numbers formulaic film. There's nothing too much to spice it up. And honestly, one of the biggest regrets I had was the dynamic between the characters. I don't think they're pairing, like I don't feel like they learn interesting lessons, or they don't learn them in an interesting way from
Yeah.
each other in the way that I've seen from other
Well,
movies.
you
Like, I don't
you would
know.
hope that Miranda would actually like learn something and stop being like so evil by the end, but she kind of just doesn't. She like keeps going at it the way she was
Yeah,
beforehand. Like the only one who changes is Andy. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny idea, like in the movie, that I laughed at towards the end with her, like walking away, and like the line is something like "Everyone wants this life" or something, and I. It's one of those things where I feel like part of the movie is about passion, and it's like, well, she doesn't want the job, like she just got it and breezed by, and like people would kill for
Yeah.
that job. And it's like, well, maybe, but I'm like, also don't treat your assistant like shit. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like she wasn't good enough to be treated like a doormat, because she's misused by Miranda. And like you said, it doesn't feel like Miranda learns anything. Like, she
Yeah.
doesn't, there's
Like
nothing really
she,
that
she
changes
yeah, because
her
it's
and
like
stuff.
it's the scene where she there's the scene where she gets divorced, right? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so now she's gonna stop. She's gonna learn her lesson. But it's kind of just like, no, she keeps going. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to take from this? I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it's so funny. The movie that was in my head when I was watching this was Whiplash, because it's like
Yeah,
it's kind of a similar idea.
I saw a few reviews say this is like the women version of Whiplash or the fashion version of Whiplash.
It genuinely feels like that, and the reasoning is like it's a similar dynamic. You have this tyrannical, like seeming expert in like an art, like with like fashion and then music and Whiplash, and it's like
Yeah,
they're this overlord that everyone is like intimidated by, but also respects because they're seemingly so knowledgeable and like have all this prestige to them. And then there's this young up and coming character who's trying to get an in that same like art like that they're involved in, and then they fight for that the entire way through. And
yeah.
then at the end. And so the reason why I compare it to that is I saw a deleted scene from Whiplash a while ago. And it's one of those deleted scenes where like when you listen to why the filmmakers explain why they deleted it, it just makes perfect sense. But
Hmm.
you see Fletcher just sitting down in his like apartment or his house and he just listens to music. You see him go home. And the thing about Whiplash is it's one of those movies where you might not notice it, but the main character is in every single scene in the entire film. There's no scene where you just follow other side characters. And they said they cut that scene because they thought it like showed you a little too much of Fletcher. You got
Uh-huh.
like too human of a side to him. And there are characters like that in stories, and I think Fletcher fills that. But the scene with her after the divorce, like they're definitely trying to do something with Miranda. And I I feel like the Fletcher thing works better as a dynamic that's very similar to this movie. I feel like there's a destructive edge to that movie's theme that I don't think plays as well into this. This is more Miranda just does her own thing and Andy just kind of learns, I
Yeah,
guess, but
she's like she
in a
learns to
weird
value
way.
herself in a way, but it's also so weird, like because one of the things this movie also does, which I thought was weird, was like she she says like, oh, I put all my relationships on hold for this job, and I get the point of like she learns how to like the job even though it's not the job she wanted. Like that's interesting. I think that's like the interesting part of this movie. But like she uh she is shit, my brain is farting. She says like, oh, I put all my relationships on hold, for this job. But we don't actually see that. She actually has a very healthy friendship with all of everyone. There's like one scene where she like says
Yeah,
like that her boyfriend, like she was late and everything, but like her boyfriend even seems understanding. Like there isn't enough scenes like that. Like how in Whiplash there's the scene of him talking to Melissa Benoist's character, just be like, I will always focus more on being a drummer than being your
yeah.
boyfriend. And it's just like,
Well,
it's missing that scene.
and it ties in well with that movie as well because he's very withdrawn and he doesn't really have any friends. He straight up says it in that movie, and I think that works as because that's what the whole movie is about. The movie's about like chasing success or chasing glory and
Yeah.
fame through any sacrificing and burning your entire life just
Yeah.
for that. This movie isn't about the same idea, but it does have a similar dynamic, and the characters seem to learn similar lessons, but
Yeah.
it's weirder.
And I also
The
felt,
family drama.
sorry, you go.
Well, I was just gonna say the drama with the friends. It's ties into the cliches, but it does feel pretty manufactured, and it's
Yeah.
like she's busier, and
Yeah,
it's like
but it's like
so.
we see her hanging out with them all the time. They show that she's late
Yeah,
once, and it's like, oh, the Andy I know would never be late. It's like, okay, she's late, like
yeah.
15 minutes late to hanging out with you at a bar. Like, why is that
She's
a
still
big deal?
clearly like she still clearly like puts in the effort to
She even
go, and she
brings
has
them
like
fucking
gifts
gifts.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rejects from Miranda, which is kind of the joke, but it is weird that and I love that line too on the birthday when he says like you're pretty or something like that, and it's
yeah,
just like you're so pretty, and it's like is part of the thing is like, well, she's getting caught up in it, the
yeah,
glamour and the clothes, and it's like, but not really. It doesn't seem like she changes, like she's different. It just
yeah,
seems like she's busier and that she prioritizes her boss, which it's like, should you? No, that not necessarily, but the I don't think those scenes with the friends hit as hard as they could if you'd maybe given Andy like her own, because one of the other things that bothered me is her like writing passion. Seemingly, she wanted to be like a journalist and basically like ends a personal assistant, and it's like we don't see her attempting to write, or
yeah.
like
Well, it
doing
would
her
be
stuff on
interesting
the
if she
side
had
or
actually like an in, like she, like they hint at that with the guy she cheats on her boyfriend with. Um, fuck, what's his name? You know who I mean. That
yeah,
says like he's gonna get her a job and everything. Um, and but it's like that's dropped because he just turns out to be an asshole like everyone in this industry. And like she doesn't like get like a resolution on the writing thing. Like we never even see her writing like at all, like anything about her
No,
writing, or like just her writing in her free time or something. Like it doesn't seem like something she actually cares about. It seems like something the filmmakers just added onto it, her, but like it doesn't
yeah.
it's classic like show don't tell. They just told you that
Well,
she's a writer, but we never see anything of it.
Well, what could have helped with that was the friends, if she hung out with other people that, like, wrote like her, or if she
Yeah.
was, like, friends with people that, like, worked for newspapers or, like, were journalists already and
Yeah.
tried to maybe other people out of college, like, got better deals than her, and she kind of had to work with, like, the best job she could,
Yeah.
but you don't really feel like that. It's just because again, what they do is they focus on how she dresses, how she actually, like, physically looks rather than what, like, she wants for the job. She went to the job for the writing, right, rather than the fashion sense, and it's strange that they focus on that. They focus on her being more presentable, being more formal, when that wasn't why she got into the job in the first place, so
Yeah. I mean, like as a visual thing, it makes enough sense to like have her like dressing better, being like you know a visual way of telling the audience that she's changed. But it's like you
yeah.
also need to show that in her character she's actually changed. You can't just like hint at that idea and be like that's enough.
Yeah. One of those kinda, like, too little, too late kind of a thing, so
Yeah, it's like because like the scene itself, like the with her talking to her boyfriend on his birthday, like I think that scene's pretty good, and it is interesting because I expected it to do the cliche of like, oh, I can stay for one drink, and then she stays out and gets drunk and arrives late, but she actually says,
uh,
no, I need to go home. You know what I mean? So it's like she's still
yeah,
thoughtful, but
has
it's
the
like,
cupcake and all that, yeah, it's
yeah,
just but it's.
but it's not enough. And it's like that could have been an interesting scene if they developed more the romance. And it's like the movie's so like irrevocably on the boyfriend's side too, which I think is kind of funny. Like I don't know.
That's another one of those cliches that I find funny with the early 2000s, but you can almost see the cliche happening, like K-pop Demon Hunters had one of those scenes where, like, the one I'm talking about, like when things get dark towards the end of, like, the second act, it's like, oh my god, it's like you've seen the setup like 1,000 times,
Yeah.
like the cliche starts. There's scenes like that in this movie that are just like, oh my god, this
Yeah,
is one
we're
of those
doing
things that
this. Okay.
lots of movies did that in the early 2000s. Okay.
Yeah. It is funny that you mentioned
But
K-pop Demon Hunters because yeah, it follows that exact formula.
by the way, I have to mention Emily Blunt. For one, I did not recognize her at the beginning. She, like, looks so young and fresh, like just like Anne Hathaway. Like and I she was the show stealer for me, and kind of the anti-cliche.
Yeah.
Usually in one of those, like, underlings, like, who's, like, insecure, like they're like a competitor, and then they're, like,
Yeah.
written out of the story, but they treated her character with dignity, and she also, like, is doing her best and like treats Andy relatively well. She's just, like, super stuck up because she's, like, been working under Miranda for longer, so
Yeah.
I really stand up performance. Same with Stanley Tucci,
Yeah.
really good stuff.
I did get a little, and I was gonna mention that earlier. I'm glad you mentioned him again. But I did feel a little frustrated with Stanley Tucci. Just like he gets fucked over and he gets no resolution. I think it's the same thing of like Miranda herself. Like they hint at her having something beyond to her beyond the facade of like her job and everything. Like she's actually like a human being, but then like she doesn't like see the error of her ways, and it's the same with Stanley Tucci. Like he gets fucked over by Miranda, and he's just like, well, I gotta believe that she'll do the right thing eventually.
Yeah,
And it's just like that's it. That's the
exactly.
end. Like you would expect like him to quit or something after Andy quits or something like that. To like show
Yeah.
that like they've learned their lessons or they changed. I don't know. There's something different happening. Instead of just like repeating the same errors.
I mean, genuinely, it would have been interesting if he'd gone a different route, because that was the thing. He had a setup to potentially leave the company and do his own thing, and he even says, like, first time I can make decisions in 18 years. And it's
Yeah.
like, that would have been interesting if he'd gone for something more, like, secondhand, but gave up on Miranda because of that specific decision. But it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. He just stays on because and that's the other thing, is the framing of Miranda as a character. Like, Fletcher, he's got the prestige to him, but you see it in just how intimidated everyone is of him. Like, people clearly don't like him. They just respect him because he like has to be respected. And there's something similar in this movie, but you also have like towards the end, like she has like all of her employees like sign a piece of paper that says like they'll follow her if they boot
Yeah.
her out of the company. And it's like, is that because of loyalty or fear? It seems to be
I think it's
loyalty.
loyalty. I don't think it's
Like,
fear. I think they just
yeah,
generally like. I think people just kind of like her. Like it's kind of the
it's
thing as well with like Emily Blunt's character, where she like actually seems to like working for Miranda, even though it's like awful and it kills her inside. And I wish they'd shown something more of Emily Blunt to be like showing her realizing it. I mean, they hint at it at some points, especially with like, like saying like she's starving herself and like, which is also another thing with this movie. Just kind of like, it kind of hand waves away the like harmful shit that this industry does and like making everyone like
oh
starve themselves and everything. And it's like, oh, now I'm a size 4 now, and like stealing to just like congratulations. It's like, isn't that not emblematic of like her starving herself for her job? Like that's not actually a good thing.
well, and movies like this are always pretty ironic too, in terms of just general star power of like people that are the main characters in the movie, because they always are. You mentioned this with fucking oh god, Margot Robbie in Babylon, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
like they're trying to like frame Anne Hathaway
Hathaway
as
as
like the
not
most
being pretty
aggressively
enough.
5 out of 10. Like
Yeah,
exactly, it's like
but I'm like, it's Anne Hathaway. Like, oh, you're not skinny enough. I'm like, it's Anne Hathaway. What are you talking about?
yeah, but it's the same for how the film itself handles it. It's like they they don't exactly give the characters good
Yeah,
lessons or criticize the industry itself or
yeah.
even just like the characters for how they, because like I
Yeah,
said,
like
that
it hints
sense
at
of
criticizing the industry. It's just like hinting at it consistently, like, oh, isn't that silly, that the thing that's common in the fashion industry? But it never like goes full in on actually like exploring those criticisms. It just like vaguely gestures at it.
yeah.
I don't know.
What well, this is an interesting little idea because we mentioned that this movie is getting a legacy sequel that is apparently like filming right now.
Yeah.
And for me, it was one of those just eye rollers. I'm like, oh, great. It's like, yeah, like 20 years has passed. I'm like, yeah, let's cash in. It's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because like, and Freakier fucking Friday just came out. Like, people are doing it. But I could see a good sequel to this movie. It'd actually be really interesting
It could
if
be.
Andy like, because apparently it's just like a reunion. I don't know the apparently this movie's based on a book, and so is the sequel. Like the author wrote a sequel to her own book, and that comes across as a bit of a cash grab as well. But I could see an interesting story like 20 years later after this movie, and the characters in different positions. It's a
Yeah.
different world, and it'd be interesting to see a framing of
Yeah.
that. But
How
the
the fashion
director of
industry has
this,
changed and everything. It could be interesting.
yeah, but the director and the writer of this have not had like the most glorious of careers since then. So I don't.
Yeah.
I get the worry that it will just look like aggressively streaming service and
Yeah.
probably not have the greatest of
Well,
stories.
it is
You never
interesting, right?
know.
Because the way I was thinking of this movie was that it felt like a Disney Channel original version of Whiplash, which is like, it's not a bad film. I don't think Devil Wears Prada is a bad film, but it at the same time it kind of feels like it's just it feels very Disney Channel. It's going through every single cliche, and it is not doing anything too interesting, and the characters are very like not
Yeah,
that well handled. That kind of feels like that. And they're doing a sequel, and now obviously this movie is a Disney movie now because they bought Fox. So the legacy sequel is just gonna feel very Disney-fied, I would imagine. So yeah.
well, I just realized it's actually hilarious that I brought up Freaky Friday because I'm like, we've talked about how like early 2000s movies like from 2000 to like maybe 2005 or 6, they had
Uh,
like a specific look to them.
yeah.
There's like a digital, like early digital, before it was like so crisp. It was still kind of grainy and filmy looking.
Yeah.
And I Freaky Friday and this movie look like that. And I'm like, why do I like Freaky Friday more than this? It's because the characters are like the draw
Yeah,
and the humor. It's a funny as hell movie, but like the main two leads are what make the movie. And in this movie, like you said, the Disneyified Whiplash, it's just tamer and it alludes to greater ideas when
yeah,
it's just not quite going into them as much as you might think.
yeah.
But
It's actually
got good
very
performances
interesting
and
because I'm making a video currently on Thunderbolts. I feel that exact way about Thunderbolts. It's a movie that vaguely
ooh,
gestures towards like good
ooh,
ideas, but it's not very good. Um, yeah,
yeah. On the comedy track, I will say probably the funniest scene was the manuscript of the Harry Potter
yeah.
book. That scene was so fucking diabolical. I was like, oh my
I
god,
thought it was hilarious.
that
She
is
was
the
like,
whole
"Oh, what am I gonna do with one manuscript?" It's like, "No, I already said
yeah. What are they
this
gonna
is
do?
just a
Share?
copy. This is just a copy. Where's the book? Oh, the children already have it on the train, and it's laminated and everything." It's like, oh, okay. Like that was the moment I was like, okay, I can see why she would be on board with this because she like enjoys the challenge of it. But it would be interesting if it tied back to her character about like her writing and why she enjoyed the challenge with writing and why she likes this job. But there's nothing to that, you know?
Well, I mean, hilariously enough, I almost feel like Emily would be a better main character for
Yeah.
this movie. She
I
like
mean, she gets
actually
fucked
has the
over,
passion
so
and wa
yeah. There's something interesting like with her getting fucked over by the end, and like having to learn like the fucking giving all yourself for your job is not always like a good idea if working yourself to the bone. It could have been interesting if she was the main one.
That's why she's the show stealer, though, and I swear it's funny. It's great that they give her resolution because, like you were saying with Stanley Tucci's character, he kind of just gets fucked over and
Yeah,
then doesn't show up again. But she actually like gives her the Paris deal, and like she's
yeah,
got a fucking broken leg and all that. But she's probably gonna be happy. So yeah, I don't know. This is one that I just like. I wasn't as impressed as like the Reputation was like way more than I
yeah.
found the actual film impressive. I feel like people maybe are looking back on this one with rose-tinted glasses, even though I can see what they were going for.
Yeah, I think it's a very fun movie. Like it has an amazing soundtrack, it has amazing actors, and their chemistry is great. Stanley Tucci, like he's just such a fun actor to watch. I love every scene he's in. He's like very charismatic, and he has good chemistry
Yeah.
with Anne Hathaway. So it's like I can see why people will love this movie. I just didn't find the story itself to be all that interesting.
Yeah. I'm glad everyone's coming back for the sequel, by the way. I'm curious how that's going to work in terms of timeline, in terms of like what they've done with their lives. Like it's a little bit like Euphoria now. Like we'll see how that works out, but
It could be very
yeah.
interesting, like you said, but I doubt that they're gonna go for like an interesting route. But maybe.
Well, would you recommend The Devil Wears Prada, Skye?
It's a good question. Would I recommend it? Probably. I think if anyone can watch this movie and have fun with it. I think it's just a very digestible, very fun, chill movie to watch. I don't think it is like reinventing the wheel. And it's not trying to. It's just I don't know. The way people talk about this movie, I expect more from it. But if you go into it like expecting what is in it, which is just a very like basic like I said Disney Channel version um Whiplash, then I think you're probably gonna enjoy it. So I think I would recommend it.
Yeah, same here. I'd feel backhanded to just give it a thumbs down because there's definitely something there, but overall, I was like definitely less impressed than the movie's reputation had given me cause to expect. So,
Yeah, yeah. All right.
all right.
Well, Evan.
Well, then
Yeah, need to
it's
recommend
your
something.
turn to recommend. What do you have in mind?
You know what? I was torn because there's two movies that have been on my mind for recommending for a while, and I didn't know which one I wanted, but my brain just decided for me. So you know how we recently covered K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm thinking of another direct to Netflix animated movie, but one that I know you've seen and enjoyed. It's called Mitchells versus the
Oh,
Machines. I really need to
Oh,
rewatch that film. I loved it when I watched it the first time. I think saw it a few times when it came out, actually. And I am due a
yeah.
rewatch, and I think it could be worth talking about it again because it's a wonderful little film. So yeah,
That's funny, actually. That's one that you and I have seen multiple times then, because I've seen that movie more than once,
yeah,
and I quite like it.
yeah.
I think that'll be quite a great discussion. Yeah, Mitchell's versus the Machines is a beautiful film.
It
It's really
is. I love
good.
it so much. Yeah. All right, Mitchell's vs. the Machines. Yeah, but the other movie I was gonna recommend is like nothing like it. It's like a horror movie. But you know it's fine. My brain works
Gotcha.
into two extremes.
It happens with recommending movies, same with like a modern movie and then a movie from like
Yeah.
1941. It's like night and
Uh.
day when it comes to the film industry.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. And yeah, we'll catch you next week for Mitchell's vs. the Machines.
Catch you next week.
Bye bye.